Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching us. Have a good rest of your day. I'm Daniel Kemerov. Welcome to my podcast on YouTube. We continue our meetings under the rubric of keeping the faith. Friends, please comment, react, subscribe to the channel if you didn't do it yet. You're welcome to share all of the videos. A church, a mosque, and a synagogue under one roof? How's this even possible? You can learn more about such a place in my interview with Dr. Malhas Sungulashvili, Bishop of the Evangelical Christian Baptist Church and the senior minister of the Peace Cathedral in Tbilisi, Georgia. I will put a link to it in the first comment below under the video. Such a place is also currently being built in the heart of Berlin, and it is called the House of One. Today, my guest is Imam Osman Örs, a theological advisor and Imam at the House of One Foundation. He also takes part in organizing educational workshops with institutions like schools, the Berlin Senate, and police. Imam Örs is a member of the Berlin Forum of Religions and the Council of Imams of Berlin. Dear Imam Örs, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview you and the privilege of learning from you.
Thank you for having me.
I suppose not everyone knows, not all of my viewers know who an imam is. Could you please explain?
Sure. Um, so an imam is actually someone who leads the prayer in a mosque, uh, but so it's kind of the counterpart of an rabbi or a priest, if you will. But it's not just about standing in front and reciting verses from the Quran. It's also about guiding. So guiding the community, teaching, that means teaching, listening, and also helping people navigate life through the lens of faith. For me, an imam is like a bridge between tradition and everyday life. So it connects uh, people with their from the faith and tradition together with the life we are every day having.
Why did you choose such a profession?
Yeah, it's a good question. Why did I choose it? I honestly, I didn't so much choose it. It kind of maybe chose me, I can say. What do I mean by that? I grew up surrounded by people from many cultures. I was born in Germany, and but around my hometown in Bremen, and later when I studied in Göttingen, and then when I came to Berlin, I was always surrounded by people of from many cultures and beliefs, and was always really curious about what connects us. Over time, I realized that faith can either divide or unite depending on how we live it, of course. So I wanted to be part of the side that unites. Becoming an imam felt like, uh, for me, a natural way, you can say, to serve people and promote understanding and peace within our society.
As you mentioned about uniting the society, um, while preparing for this interview, I read an interesting fact about you that on June 24th, 2018, you participated in an rabbis and imams bike ride through central Berlin, a joint show of interfaith respect and against racism and anti-Semitism. You're riding a tandem bike with a rabbi. Please tell us, when did you decide that interreligious dialogue and collaboration were important? As I understand, it happened much earlier than this bike ride.
Mhm. Yes, of course. Yeah, looking back at that time you mentioned and this event, this bike ride was really a special day. It was before Corona, and but my interest in interfaith work started, of course, much earlier. Growing up in Germany and living in Berlin, like I said, I had Jewish, Christian, and Muslim friends, and we often talked about faith, of course, sometimes argued who's right, who's wrong, and looking for common things, and also the things which differentiate us, of course. But always it was a learning from each other. And I saw how simply talking changes things, talking with each other and listening to each other. And that bike ride with Rabbi Weingarten, the picture went through the whole world actually, was a symbol of that. So two people of faith on one tandem bike, moving forward together. It's a pretty good image, of course, for what dialogue can do. And it's a symbol of friendship and trust. Because why trust? Because riding such a tandem together means that you have to trust each other, your partner, because you need to ride and steer together in tandem. And without trust, it doesn't function. And therefore, it was really a nice event, and always looking back to and being really fond of.
There is also another project
Yeah.
that is very much focused on tandem and dialogue, and it is called the House of One. And
Mhm.
that name, the House of One, how did it come about? I heard that that a speech of Martin Luther King, who visited Berlin, inspired the founders of the center who chose this name. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The name was inspired by Martin Luther King Jr., we can say, because the first name our project had was not House of One, actually. It was Bet- und Lehrhaus am Petriplatz, which means House of Prayer and Learning at Petriplatz. And later on, when we were searching for another name, a name which is kind of more universal, and also understandable for many people around the world, um, we looked at a sermon of Martin Luther King when he came to Berlin, 1964 or 65 it has to be. So when he visited Berlin and hold his sermon at the St. Mary Church congregation here in Berlin, which is our partner Christian congregation, he spoke about building a house of one humanity. Yeah, which we all share and which we all, people of faith, Christians, Muslims, Jews, and others, we all are responsible for. So this one house, this idea came from him. And so the founders of our project loved that image, a single house that belongs to everyone. So the House of One became the name for a place where our project, which is a church, a mosque, and a synagogue, share one roof. Each has its own sacred space, but we all meet in the center, a space for dialogue and friendship, if you will.
And could you tell a little bit more about the mission and vision? You already mentioned the values of the center, but could you go a
Mhm.
little bit further into that?
Yeah, of course. So the mission of is really simple, but also powerful, if you will. It's to create a place, a house where people of different faiths can come together in peace and respect. So it's a house which we all share together. We are all uh, not any more guests to each other, but we are all hosts, yeah, in this house. So the vision is is a world where diversity is something we celebrate and not fear. And our values like dialogue, respect, peace, education are at the heart of everything we do. Um, we are not trying to make religions the same. That's important. So not mixing up religions and bringing up a new religion. That's not our vision. We are saying that let's be different, but let's still talk and learn and care for one another. That's our main vision and also the values we share. We have also a so-called House of One Charter, where we have our written down our principles of how we deal with each other with respect and not doing any kind of missionary and respecting the space, like we don't misuse it or misuse it for any kind of political ideology. And we respect also like the equality of man and women. So everyone, everybody and everyone who is in the House of One has to stick to these rules or these principles and values we have written down in our charter. That's very important for us. It's the first brick, if you will, or the cornerstone of our project.
It sounds like a very pure and just a great place for learning and interfaith dialogue and prayer. What is happening with the House of One project right now? When will various religious communities begin the activities there?
Yeah. So the construction right now is slowly but steadily moving forward. Right now we are at the maybe in the standby mode when it comes to the construction, but soon you can see the walls hopefully rising in the heart of Berlin. Uh, why the heart of Berlin? Because we are constructing it and building it in a very historical place. The so-called Petriplatz is the place where the oldest church of Berlin stood in the 13th century. And the birth date of Berlin, which is 1237, also goes back to this place where the House of One is going to be built. And therefore, we are always looking back to the history of Berlin, of course, through this place. But that's also important. We're not only looking back at the Christian history of Berlin, but also from different perspectives, also Jewish life and Muslim life in Berlin. That's always our also one of our visions and our principles. So we laid the foundation stone a few years ago, 2021 it was, and then since then the excitement has only grown, and even before the building is finished, I can say we are very active. So what does that mean? We organize, for instance, interfaith discussions, conferences. We have educational school programs and community events. We are also taking part in different projects with communities of faith in Berlin. So the building will simply give us a home for what we are already doing, actually. I always say that the house at the end, the house is just a body, but what a body, of course, needs is a soul and a heart. And this soul and heart is already there and it's already living and also, yeah, kind of already um, um, giving something to our society with the work we do. Yeah. So I'm not alone. I have a Jewish and a Christian and also other friends who are doing the educational work. We have also people who are doing it, who are not working, but voluntarily. volunteers we have who are also helping us with the work we do. And so the House of One is already there. We just need this place so we can come together in it.
That sounds amazing. How can representatives of other religions, for example, Hindus, um,
Mhm.
if they want to come to the House of One, um, will there be any forms of activity or involvement, some educational programs from the House of One, perhaps?
Absolutely. They are welcome to like the House of One isn't exclusive to the three Abrahamic faiths. So the idea is to start with these three because of their shared history, of course, but the door is open to everyone. Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Baha'i, people of no faith, the secular society, and we already work with many of them in Berlin. So the one in the House of One isn't about one God, one religion. It's about one humanity, and which means that everybody is welcome, of course. And this is also expressed by our architecture, the house itself, through the fourth space we have. So we have a synagogue, church, and mosque, but the biggest space of all is the so-called fourth space, the space of encounter or dialogue, we call it, which is neutral, which is shared, which can be used by also people of other faiths and non-religious people. This is the place and space which connects the three sacred spaces, but also connects us with the rest of society. And therefore, it's a house for all of Berliners and of everybody else too.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a great and amazing opportunity
Mhm.
for all religions and for one humanity. Uh,
Yeah.
what role would women play in the House of One or already play in the House of One?
Mhm. Yeah. Also an important question. Like I mentioned, we have in our so-called charter of the House of One, we have one of the principles is that we respect the equality of men and women, and therefore women are welcome, of course, and women are essential voices in all our communities. And in the House of One, they take already part as leaders, educators, and dialogue partners. We can't talk about peace and justice if half of humanity is left out, of course. So women play a full and equal role in shaping our programs and also conversations. Like I mentioned, our educational team, I'm the from four people, I'm the only man. There are three women who are doing the educational work we do together with me. And then we have, on the one hand, of course, a rabbi, priest, um, and Imam, my colleague. But we also have three wonderful women who are doing a podcast, and it's also called Three Women, Three Religions, One Topic. It's the House of One podcast with which we reach every 2 weeks more than 4,000 people actually. It's a very popular podcast in the German podcast sphere, and it's very unique because it's the first one where three women from different faiths talk about about spirituality, but also their daily life and their challenges, etc. And this podcast is one of the most important projects we have with which we reach out to many people. And this wouldn't be possible without these three wonderful women, of course.
That's amazing. Uh, it's great that in the House of One there is an opportunity for everyone to um, express themselves, and I think that the podcast is a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Yes.
In,
Yeah,
in each of
of course, for the German, it's unfortunately it's only in German. So everybody who speaks and understands German is welcome to listen to it.
that
Thank you.
sounds great. In each of my interviews, I use a Jewish joke, and I also have one today. A religious Jew is shipwrecked and spends 30 years on a deserted island. Finally, a passing ship sees the bonfire and sends a rescue party. And the captain of the ship is curious how this man spent 30 years living alone. He asks, what did you do so that you wouldn't go insane living alone for 30 years? And the old Jew says, well, come, let me show you. And the pair takes a little path through the jungle, and they come to a clearing where there is a magnificent synagogue. And the captain says, oh, I see. It must have been taken 30 years to have built this alone by hand. And the old Jew says, no, actually, it only took me 15. Let me show you what I did for the next 15. The captain says. And they take another path through the jungle to another clearing, and there is another magnificent synagogue. And the captain says, well, I understand you needed to keep busy, but two synagogues, why? The old Jew says, well, the first synagogue, I pray in there every day. The second synagogue, I would never step foot in that place. It seems more accurate to speak of Christianity's, Judaism's, and Islam's. Within these three religions, there are Orthodox and liberals. Does this mean that not every Christian, Jew, or Muslim will come to the house of one? Only those who are willing to hear and see the others will come. What do you think about this?
Hmm. That's an interesting question, of course. And yes, probably the people who come at first will be those who are also open to dialogue. And I think that's okay. That's where change begins. We are not trying to convince everyone, and it's okay that people have their own kind of art, more traditional, and have their fears. We have to respect that. But for us, it's more something to create a living example of what's possible when people listen to each other instead of arguing. Over time, I believe more and more people, even those who are skeptical, will see that dialogue doesn't threaten faith. It kind of deepens it. So from my own experience, I can say that it's always when I encounter others, when I listen to others' prayers and I feel their emotions. Um, and for me, it's always a positive effect on myself because it's a contrast to what I feel maybe or what I believe. And in contrast to the other, that's always something, an experience for me that deepens my own faith and also my own understanding of me. And so that's of course, I think, an enrichment. But you can't, of course, expect that everyone is at the same level or has the same experience. And so it's a process of learning, and this process takes time. And of course, therefore, we respect always also the others who are more skeptical. But I think by time they will also be more open to that, and will see the enrichment.
It is great to hear that the House of One is doing those steps and helping the society to start the dialogue or to continue that dialogue
Mm.
and to start to listen to each other and maybe argue less and try to hear the other side too.
True.
In the
Yeah.
end of my interviews, I traditionally ask, If you had the opportunity to ask God one question, what would you ask? So let's not break tradition. What question would you ask Allah?
Okay, that's a hard one, of course. But I think I would ask Allah, God, what more can we do to make this world a better place, uh, a peaceful home in which He intended it to be, of course. Um, because I believe God has already given us everything we need: compassion, reason, love. But we, as humanity, still struggle to use them. And therefore, I would ask that we maybe better understand what God has given us. Um, and we have what we really can change. We can change the world to a better. We have the responsibility and also the things God has given. So that would be my um, the thing I would ask God.
Thank you so much for that truly impactful and interesting answer.
You're welcome.
This, um, the House of One reminds me of a story from a Jewish tradition. So I'd like to recall it. A wise teacher asked his students, when does night become day? One student answered, when you hold your hand to your face and you can see it. The second answered, when you look out into a field and can distinguish between a fox and a dog. The third answered, when you look at your neighbor and see a friend. I would like to wish to all those who are ready to see a friend in their neighbor to come to the House of One.
Yeah. Maybe just to add one thing, I love the story you shared and about when night becomes day. So when you look at your neighbor, like you said, and see a friend, I think that's exactly the spirit of the House of One. It's not just building a building, it's a way of seeing. When we start seeing a friend instead of a stranger, then light enters the world. Thank you, Daniel.
Dear Imam Urs, thank you so much for your time and the great opportunity to learn from you. Tada Rabah.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a pleasure for me and an honor. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see you and hear from you again and wish you all the best. And
Thank you so
also
much.
all the best to your listeners. May it be fruitful for them also our talk today.
Thank you so
And
much and the pleasure.
yeah, I wish like in our tradition, salam and shalom and peace to all of your listeners.
Thank you so much. And the pleasure is all mine. Dear friends, thank you for watching my channel. Please react to the podcast, like, repost. All reactions are very welcome. See you soon on the podcast, Keeping the Faith.